Hello there, welcome to Critical Reviews. Today, taking a look at Terrifier 3. All hail the true Clown Prince of Darkness. Step aside, Joker. Art is here, and he's back to doing what he does best. That's right, Art the Clown is back, and this new instalment of Terrifier might just be the most gruesome and brutal to date, which is great news if you're into that kind of thing. But before I get stuck into the bloody action, your spoiler-free plot summary. It is 5 years after Terrifier 2. Survivor siblings Sienna and Jonathan are trying to move on with their lives with mixed success. While her brother has gone to college and is trying to put his traumatic past behind him, Sienna has been in and out of mental hospitals since the attack, plagued by visions and dreams. Fresh out of treatment, she goes to her aunt's for Christmas to recover, but Art the Clown once again comes back. The first Terrifier was made on a paltry budget of $300,000, or about 10 seconds of the Acolyte. Art was a maniacal, cruel killer, and the unpredictable plot and gruesome physical effects made it stand out in an age of paranormal activities. It was a homage to the 80s gorefests we used to enjoy, ramped up to 11. Terrifier 2 resurrected our killer clown and introduced a final girl whose destiny was to combat him. Along with an equally homicidal companion, it introduced some questionable attempts at establishing lore, but also dialed up the nastiness, including some truly horrific scenes that just proved to be too much for some. And if that includes you, then I have to warn you that the third instalment doesn't let up for a second. In the first 5 minutes of the film, Art, dressed up in a Santa Claus costume, dismembers a family, and the kiddies aren't spared. It's done off screen, even Damien Leone has his limits, but the message is clear. No one is safe. This sets us up for some scenes of absolute depravity as Art butchers his way towards Sienna out for revenge. There are carryovers from the lore set up in that film, and it is expanded on in a loose way, with some questions being answered while new inconsistencies and mysteries are established. Maybe it will all be properly resolved in the already announced Terrifier 4. The physical effects are absolutely insane in this film, with a visceral realism that I think is unmatched to date. It's a glorious, or should that be glorious, homage to the work of Tom Savini and the like, and in fact Tom is one of the cameos in this movie. But, and this is the real secret to the Terrifier formula, much of it is executed, if you'll excuse the term, with a gleeful playfulness and with tongue firmly in cheek. While the content could certainly be considered to be comparable to such torture porn flicks like Hostel and the like, it's all performed with Art gesturing and laughing and mocking. There's a scene where he bumps into a mall Santa at a pub, and his giddy joy is like that of a child, jumping up and down, gesticulating with excitement. It almost makes him endearing. And I think that is the secret to Terrifier. People love Art, despite his atrocities. A great deal of the credit for this, of course, has to go to the amazing physical performance of David Howard Thornton, who mimes his way through the butchery with as much style and pomp as any of the silent movie greats. Not to say that Terrifier 3 doesn't have its weaknesses. Some of the acting is poor. The story, such as it is willfully obtuse and secondary to the bloody action, and some of it literally just doesn't really make sense. They keep saying it's the 5th anniversary of the slaughter from the second film, but the previous 2 took place at Halloween, and this is Christmas. That's not how anniversaries work. Some of the editing is a little bit choppy, and overall the film does look low budget. But that's because it is. Terrifier 2 had a budget of $2 million. While this is huge compared to the first film, it's still minuscule in the grand scheme of Hollywood. Indeed, this little indie film that could has the budget of about 1.5 minutes of The Acolyte or its ilk. So yes, the acting is cheesy, the film does have a grain to it, whether through necessity or choice, but this just further enhances that 80s VHS video nasty vibe. The story could certainly do with some work, but overall the film is as unapologetic and entertaining as ever, and the kills are inventive and brutal, with a sadistic and knowing edge to them. This brings us through to a shocking and brutal third act, even for Terrifier. I don't think I've ever seen a final girl put through as much as Laura Rivera, beaten, gouged, cut and mangled to all sorts of degrees. In fact, pretty much everything apart from immolation, which sucks, as it stops me from making any burnt sienna jokes. For shame. At this point, she is as integral a part of the Terrifier lore as Art himself, his nemesis, the Laurie Strode to Michael Myers. Her portrayal of a traumatised survivor, full of guilt and mental scars, is particularly compelling, especially earlier in the movie. Final thoughts. Terrifier 3 is a film that knows exactly what its audience wants, and unlike a certain other clown movie of late, it delivers in spades, or should that be axes. In fact, David Howard Thornton has expressed an interest in playing the Joker, and I genuinely think he could do a great job. His performance as Art the Clown is the heart of this movie, and without his antics, this really would just be another generic slasher. The film is at its weakest when he isn't on screen, creating havoc and bloody mayhem, distracting you from the ho-hum script and acting. Although not for the faint-hearted, Terrifier 3 is a loving, bloody homage to those schlock 80s gorefests of the past. It's a great example of what can be achieved by a passionate creator working on a tiny budget, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. It may be controversial and unpalatable to some, but art has to be that. Art has to be allowed to shock and appall and challenge, and I'm happy to say that in this, art does all that and more. I'll sum it all up with this final little quote.
I'm the best there is at what I do. But what I do best isn't very nice.
Thanks for watching. I've been Critic, and I'll be back with another movie review soon.